All right, what's up? We're back, episode 3 of Bloodline basketball. I'm just gonna jump right in and start talking about the Spurs and Thunder series. I think we can quickly go over the Knicks and the Cavs series. There was a sweep. Nothing incredibly exciting happened other than game one. Knicks coming back from down 20 with pretty much 6 minutes remaining in the game. The Knicks have won, I believe, their last 10 games. I think that's accurate. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'd have to go back down the list. But the Knicks are playing excellent. I think it might be the last 10 at home. Um, and uh, ultimately, I'm more disappointed in what I saw from the Cavs than feeling incredibly confident in what I saw from the Knicks. I still think that whoever wins the Spurs uh, Thunder series is going to handle the Knicks pretty easily. Um, but I think more so what was eye opening for me is I just don't understand. I think this is the culmination of trading for James Harden. I don't think the Cavs are really as talented as a unit as I think they would like the rest of the league to believe. Um, most notably, I think James Harden pretty much collapsed the entire series. And it's not, to me, it's not even just a collapse as much of it looks like an unwillingness to bring playoff intensity at this point in his career. He doesn't really seem to want to get after it, whether it's an elimination game or the start of the series. He just looks lackadaisical, uninterested, and even if he's putting up numbers, it doesn't look like he is really showing up with the mental focus required really to just play at such a high level in the playoffs right now.
Um, yeah, the Knicks have won 11 straight playoff games. Um, oh my god, I forgot what I was going to say. Um, yeah, the Cavs, I feel like what we saw in the Pistons series isn't close to what we got in the Knicks series. In the Pistons series with the Cavs, I feel like they played the whole series. And I know it's tough for them because they came off of, I think it was two game sevens they came off of, two game seven series. So obviously that didn't help. They were gassed the entire series, and the Knicks had a nice long break after sweeping the Sixers. I think Harden didn't show up, and I feel like they gave up too easily. After game one, for the rest of the three games, once they got to the fourth quarter, and there were like the whole fourth quarter was left, and maybe like 2 minutes in, it just looked like they just gave up. They had like they looked like they did not want to be out there at all. I don't know if that's because they were tired, if they didn't think they were going to win the series, if they just didn't want to play. Um, so that's what I saw from the Cavs. I think. Remember the last episode I said the Cavs had to be ready for to not give up because the Pistons don't. And they did. They played the entire series. Um, but I don't know what happened in this next series. I thought it was gonna go 5, 6 games. I did not think it was gonna be a sweep. So I was very shocked by that.
I I felt so a couple things. One, I mean, we can talk about James Harden. I think the bigger issue is like it's if you didn't think Garland was the guy that you wanted as your point guard going into the playoffs, for whatever reason, like I have no problem with moving off of Darius Garland, but I think it's year after year after year where James Harden doesn't show up in the playoffs, and then you have a situation where it's like, and you're trading for him, and he's 36, and he's playing like a guy who is 36, and I don't understand where this belief comes from that he will just magically turn it on. Um, because he's not he it felt that he was getting picked on defense the final two games of the series, game 3 and game 4. Generally, I actually do think Harden can hold his own on defense, especially in the paint. But I mean, he it looked like they were picking on him in game 3 and game 4, and whether that be from a stamina or an interest level, whatever the case may be, that he didn't show up and he didn't hold his own. Um, but on top of that, I think you look at Donovan Mitchell and the scoring that he brings, and I think to me I hate to say because I know he puts up numbers and it looks like he's the only guy doing anything, but this is year after year now where on the Jazz, now on the Cavs, that he has put up his own numbers and it not resulted in winning at the highest level. And it almost seems as though when he's playing, he plays in a way where he's like, well, when it's all said and done, no one can say I didn't do my end. I held up my end. Here's my look how much I scored. And it's like, yeah, but it's all on isolation buckets. It doesn't seem to be a style of play that gets really anyone else involved. His assist numbers are still low. They've always been low. And I know that that's his thing. He's a scoring guard. He's not a pass first guard. I'm not saying that he has to be that. But when you look at guys who can be the first option on a team, I think they have to some extent, be able to make the players around them better. And it just feels like Donovan Mitchell plays for his own stats so that when it's all said and done, whatever the outcome is, it's either, well, I got mine, so you can't get mad at me, or it's, if we did win and it's positive, it's all me. And I think there's got to be some regression into a more team oriented style of play, that's not just, it almost feels like he's hunting highlights out there. And I don't think that's, um, you know, gonna bring you to the promised land. Now, that being said, I do think he needs more help. There were other guys in the series who I certainly think maybe haven't taken the step that was projected. Evan Mobley. I think Mobley's a great defensive big. He seems agile. He should be better. I feel that he should be better. It doesn't seem like his offensive game has really developed much since he's been in the league. I think occasionally you'll get him spotting up from three. When he shoots with confidence from the three, it does seem like he can hit that shot, but he is he's constantly sort of on a you don't know what mentality he's going to bring on any given night. And so I don't know that he's a cornerstone piece for a championship team going forward. Obviously, he's a year removed from the defensive player of the year, but I just didn't feel like that's when I was watching notable defenders this season in the playoffs, thinking of guys like Amen Thompson, Asar Thompson, um, like watching the Spurs series right now, the Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Devin Vassell, like these guys seem to have an impact on every play, and I didn't feel like I saw any of that from Mobley. And if he's supposed to be the number two, number three option, and the way the Cavs are set up, you got so like what Harden the number two option, then Mobley the number three option. I don't think that's enough firepower. I also think you've seen Mobley and Allen now for 4 or 5 years. Um, that's it's not working. It's not working at the highest level. It's not working in the playoffs. One of them has to be traded, and they have to retool this roster. If they're not going to go into a rebuild, because I think you could see that just clearly from this season that they are not ready to compete. And even if they were to get something like LeBron signing with them, with this team currently as it's constructed, um, I don't think that takes them over the hump at all.
Yeah, the way I kind of view Evan Mobley, he's not a score first player. Like, he should never be the number one option unless he takes that leap offensively. I kind of see him as like a worse version of Anthony Davis in a way. Like, there are some parts that are way worse than Anthony Davis, and there's some parts that are a little bit better than Anthony Davis for Evan Mobley. Like, I think Evan was a little bit of a better defender than AD, but I feel like AD could score the ball better. So I kind of view him as like Anthony Davis if he was a little bit worse offensively. So I feel like all that really needs to happen for Mobley is what the hell? Hold on. Mom? Sorry, hold on. Sorry about that. My entire desk and floor just felt like it was shaking. Um, where was I? Evan Mobley. Yeah, I feel like this season and next season, this off season, I should say, it should really be to me. If I was, a Cavs fan, I would feel like we either need to trade Mobley and get picks and a player, or we need to see if he could progress offensively. And if he can, then we go from there and we kind of build around him and Donovan Mitchell.
I don't see that happening this offseason. I think if he was going to progress offensively in a way that could get him into the second option, I think we would have seen it by now. Obviously, I'm not ruling it out. Anything can happen, but I don't think he's shown. And like another thing for me with him is he seems timid on the floor. Like he doesn't seem like he wants to go force the issue. He it. It's not that he doesn't have an impact. It's not the impact that I feel like star players should have. Like you see, it doesn't feel like he is ever makes the decision that like I'm gonna go be the best player on the floor. And I think that's just going to hold this Cavs roster back. Um, Ultimately, and like that's a shame because he should be there are times when he sort of decides I'm gonna go get a bucket and you're like this guy can be so much better. And whether that's I don't think it has anything to do with skill. I think it's all about mentality. But for this is like year 7 or 8 for Mobley, and like the mentality just doesn't seem to be there now. Like maybe that's an exaggeration. Maybe it's like year 5 or something. I don't know exactly. But it's not there, and I think to not for the Cavs to not even be competitive games 2, 3, and 4. That to me is big changes need to come. And honestly, I wouldn't look past a coaching change. Like there's now you blow a 20-point lead in 6 minutes in game one. Like that's bad. We don't need to harp on it. Like it's nothing I'm gonna say that's gonna be any different than anyone else. Like that can't happen. But beyond it, to not even keep a somewhat close game the next 3 games of the series tells me that you had no answer, nothing new to throw at the Knicks. And I think Mike Brown's a great coach, but I mean, if he's coaching circles around you, and you're not even competitive and seemingly have no option other than to occasionally try to throw a zone out there, then I mean that's just not good enough. And um, I don't think there's a whole lot more to say about the series, but I think, it started getting to a point where it's like, all right, are we relying on Max Strus to try to put up 20 tonight? And Max Strus is great. I think he brings, a ton of energy. He's obviously been to the playoffs, I think, almost every year of his career. But like if you're looking on for Max Strus to be the tone setter, you're lost. You're already, steps behind. So I expect a lot of big changes coming from the Cavs this season. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to move, to trade Mobley for like one of the picks in the top 10. Um, and honestly, frankly, I do expect a coaching change. I don't know if it will happen, but I think I for whatever reason, I don't think Atkinson's really been able to get this team anywhere in the playoffs. I think they've had some good regular seasons, but the last three solid regular seasons that they've had, they've crashed out pretty early in the playoffs, or at least gone out in a rather sad fashion. Um, so there's that, and then obviously Game 7 tonight for Thunder Spurs. This series has been awesome, incredibly exciting both ways. Game 1 still, I think, probably the most exciting game, the most neck and neck game. Some of these fourth quarters have gotten away from both teams. My only criticism of this series would be that I think the home team has won. Uh, I think they both stole one game on the road, and then it felt like other than for the games each team stole on the road, that like whoever the whistle favors that night wins. And I think like that's just a general issue for the league because this is one of the most exciting series for fans that we've had in years. The potential. I guess you got here the two faces of the league right now going at it, and it's just I don't want to. I actually don't think either side is like flopping more than one another. I think that obviously the Thunder I think are a little bit more prone to flopping, but honestly I don't think it's in the way that if you go on Twitter or whatever you'll see that people are it's like oh like Shea can barely take three steps without flopping. Like I don't really think that that's the case. I think more so you're getting inconsistency with the calls. And so, you know, uh, Stefan Castle is playing incredibly physical full court defense pretty much the entire series. And what it depending on the game depends what kind of defense he can play. And I think that's the bigger issue is not necessarily like who's favored as it's just inconsistent. And when it becomes inconsistent, you lose a little bit of faith in the idea that the best team will win. And it seems like, like it should be the best team will win, but it seems like, all right, the team that can game the refs or play the game within the game a bit more is the team that's going to win. And that's regardless of who you want to win the series. I think that's the bigger issue in general with this series is like these are I think right now the two top teams in basketball, and what should be just decided by on court play is now this whole thing is a refs flopping versus physicality of play and and whether or not it's fair, and that shouldn't be what the discourse is in the Western Conference Finals with these two teams.
Yeah, I have a strong opinion about the whole foul thing. I think it's gotten a little out of control, just in the whole NBA. It's a couple years ago they were like, I think they made it a rule if you get caught flopping, it's a tech. It happened like once or twice, and it hasn't been used again. Like I think it was game 5, OKC won. It like it the ball it was out of bounds. It hit directly off of Chet Holmgren's foot. Obviously, it's hard to see right off the bat, but when you look back at it and it looks right off of Holmgren's foot, like you gotta change that. Like even if it's like an official review or a team challenge, it should be looked at no matter what. The especially because then the coach got a tech for it. Like that I don't think that's right. I think it was game 1 or 2. Cason Wallace or Lou Dort went for a jumper, and Darren Fox kind of like laid off. Like he was gonna contest, but then he kind of just like put his hands to the side of him and didn't even like touch him or anything. It was a foul. I also feel like that's kind of affecting the physicality defensive wise. I know it can get very physical.
Well, that's the thing
Especially
too.
down
Is there
low.
was that other play where Shea, takes that shot sort of on the right baseline, that mid range. Fox, contests it, shifts his body to the side, and then they call the foul, and Fox doesn't touch him. And then the question becomes, well, it's not a foul. He didn't touch him, but it's because the landing area. Now he was invading his landing area, And I think the bigger issue is, why is this, like, this isn't how the game is meant to be discussed. The game is not to discuss whether or not there was an infraction in the landing area that makes it a call that you got to call it or you don't call it or whatever. Like, I think what people want is to not, why are fouls debates? Like, it brings me back to, like, if you call a foul, I feel like I should be able to see the foul and go, yep, that's a foul. Especially because when you look at Hartenstein grabbing Wemby like every play of the game, like they're grabbing his arms, legs, like hooking him, whatever. I'm okay with that too. Like what else are you gonna do with Wemby? You got to be physical. You got to get into his chest. You got to try to make it difficult for him to get to his spot. You got to be a pest as much as possible. But then that's got to be the same. Like, if that's what you can do on that, then that's what you can do in the game, and that's fine. But if it's like, I watch you're bear hugging Wemby on one end, and then, the calls on this end become, well, if you bring out a microscope, you can actually see that, he brushed him on the, the elbow or whatever there, and it's like, that's not really, that isn't the same energy that you're bringing to the call on the other end. Because now, this is why I feel like it goes back to consistency, and I don't think it's one thing where it's like the Thunder are getting such a better whistle, because there were 2 plays in Game 6 where, frankly, if you ask me, I think it's a flagrant one on Carter Bryant.
Yeah.
Now, they said both of those were common. Actually, one they didn't call, and the second one they called it a common foul. Both times, I thought he clearly put his shoulder down and was trying to send a message. And then you had the situation with the Plumlee and the Biyombo fouls in Game 5, right? And so now it's a situation of, like, there's no consistency. It seems like we're deciding whether or not something's a foul based on how we want the game to go in that moment. And I think that's why, like, that, let's not lose the integrity of basketball in this, in this series. And I think, like, that's generally one of the bigger issues, is when you go to your, like, I don't know, when I go and watch the game out tonight, wherever I'm going to go watch the game, I don't want the conversation to be about the whistle. Like, the conversation should be about the X's and O's of the game. And I actually think, like, and in this series with these high-level X and O coaches, like, that's what we should be talking about. Now, let me, change, because, like, now let's discuss that aspect of it. I think one of the bigger changes that most notably from this series is in games one and games two, the and I think for part of game three as well, the 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 Spurs trapped SGA basically as soon as he crossed half court. And that led to a ton of open shots for Caruso, Casey Wallace, Lou Dort, namely Caruso in the first 2-3 games of the series, where he was just firing away. And credit to Shea, he got the ball out of his hands, found the middleman, and it led to a ton of backside threes, weak side threes, from them trying to keep the ball out of Shea's hands. And I think as the Spurs adjusted to sort of how things were called, learning that they could play with a little bit more physicality. They started going one-on-one with Shea until he either drove to the basket, ripped through or whatever, or if he beat his man. And then they would either bring a soft double or sort of funnel him in to Wemby, on like a kind of like get behind him and sort of kind of chase him around, trying to funnel him to Wemby, to make life difficult. And like that, I think changed the series because you're not seeing as many wide open looks that the Thunder are getting. And I think especially in the last 3 games, shots for both teams are just hard to come by. And like I expect tonight to be a fairly low scoring game. Wouldn't be shocked at all if it's in the 80s, 90s. But that's what I personally picked up on from the Spurs, and I think that's made the series really exciting. And I think it's also they're hitting Shea in the mouth the way that the Thunder have hit everyone else in the mouth the last 2 years in every game. And I think that's totally fine. That's the right way to play basketball. Play physical. But they're getting a taste of some of their own physicality, and it's making life tough. I think you've had some bad Shea games. I think you've had some good ones as well. But I think you see Shea getting frustrated when he's being guarded with physicality, not getting the call, because also his shot then isn't falling with the same consistency. He doesn't have the ability to create as much space. And, I think that'll be the deciding factor tonight, really, is one, can both teams, like, if it's a Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals, please just let them play. Like, that's what I'm hoping for tonight.
Yeah, going back to what you said about the Carter Bryant foul, I think that, like, I'm not the biggest fan of SJ, mainly because I think he's a great player. I think he is probably the top scorer in the league. But obviously, the whistle, when you're not a Thunder fan, it gets to you eventually. And I feel like it's gotten to me, this playoffs, this postseason this year. So, um, when I saw Carter Bryant foul him, I was like, okay, I understand you're frustrated about all the whistle calls and you're trying to injure him so that there's not as many whistle calls, but that's just completely wrong. There should be no reason why you're doing that. There should be no reason why that should even happen on accident. You don't just like drop your shoulder into a guy's back. I think that honestly he possibly could have gotten thrown out for that. That was a really really bad foul.
I wouldn't have been surprised if they ejected him from that game. I wouldn't have been surprised at all. Now, I think
Yeah.
Zarba will do all he can to keep guys in the game, as opposed to other refs, like Tony Brothers or Scott Foster or something like that. So credit to Zarba on that, but I honestly I think it deserved a flagrant one.
Yeah.
Because it was very reminiscent of the Jokic hit on Markieff Morris, years back, where he lowered his shoulder into his back, and I think I'm all for sending a message, but that one was I think a little bit of it was a little egregious.
Yeah. I'm really hoping for the Spurs to win tonight. Like I am praying. Uh, it's in OKC, which gives Oklahoma the advantage, and no J Dub. No J Dub. I feel like he's been a little quiet in the postseason in general. I know he's been out for some games, but I feel like he's been very quiet.
So
And
Jalen Williams is out tonight,
yeah,
and he played in Game 6. And did he re-aggravate the
well,
calf
I think
or
they said it happened in
hamstring?
practice.
Happened in practice? Because that's another thing that's just like curious is like he played in Game 1, did he not?
uh he
Or
missed
Game 2?
he missed the third game, and he's gonna miss tonight.
Interesting.
So I think that's a little weird.
Well, because also if he's out and AJ Mitchell's out, who was a huge creator for them this postseason. I mean, it honestly like if Jalen Williams is out and AJ Mitchell are out, that was their 2 and 3 creator. Going into this series, and honestly, I think AJ Mitchell won them Game 2. So it'll be on Shea and honestly Chet. Like, you're the guy. You're a part of that big three. Like I know you're going up against Wemby. Like, life's not easy, but I think if Chet has another one of those 7 point, 10 rebound kind of games, like that it's not a good game to have that sort of performance if those guys are out. So, it definitely be an exciting game tonight. But I think that he's got to have a big game in here somewhere. Before I are you a role player or are you? What kind of player are you in this league? Yeah. And it's like you're certainly not, seen as a role player. So it's time to earn that paycheck.
Yeah. I do think Chet needs a big game. I feel like this series, I might just be a Shea hater. I feel like I haven't seen much from Shea. I know he had 32 in Game 5, and I know obviously him being out there is enough. He creates a lot of. He's very players are very attracted to him. That creates so much room for scoring. Like what you said about Caruso in Game 5. I do think Chet needs a big game. I understand. It's Wemby. But he needs something. They could space out the floor maybe with him. I feel like the whole part with Wemby versus Chet, it's a rivalry, it's gotten a little too far. I feel like now it's just who could bully each other in the paint. That's what it's come down to. Who's gonna be more physical. I feel like Chet, yeah, he could be a little physical, but he's more of a shooter, I feel like, than, post up and get blocked up by Wemby. And I feel like we need to see the floor being stretched more with Chet. If that means, if you want to go big, put Hartenstein at center. I think they've been doing that with
Well,
the
I think
start
they've been
Hartenstein.
doing that too big look
Yeah,
on Wemby, for a while, really since Game 2.
yeah,
And that's kept Wemby in the 20s. I mean, he's still doing him. But I think you'll see that too big look a good amount tonight. I think what I would also like to see tonight, I mean, unless there's foul trouble, I want to see 40 minutes from Wemby tonight. Like I obviously if you can find time to rest him, but this is a Game 7 to get you to the finals. 28 minutes this isn't the game to play 28 minutes. This and it's something that I really do feel strongly about is LeBron's a great example, but there are some games where like if you're the best player on the floor, and I don't know if I say, not if I say, obviously I'm not the coach, but if you're asked for 48 minutes, well, then 48 minutes might be what it requires. Now, obviously, if you can get 2 minutes at the end of some quarters, to just recover a little bit, have some Gatorade or whatever the case may be, then obviously, yes, use your timeouts wisely, use your full timeouts, use your TV timeouts, rest, take care of your body. But like this is the game, this is a legacy game, really. Um, and not to be like one of the talking heads on TV, or it's gonna be like this game really matters. Like, yeah, it's a game 7 for the Western Conference Finals. Like we all know that. But this is the time where the greats be great and play 44 minutes, and if you're not, and I think about it back, even like back when Mike Miller waved off the sub back in 2013, and like in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it was, where he's like, and he hit his like one shoe three, after waving off the sub, and it's like, yeah, is that like a little silly? Yeah, but like that's the mentality that if you're not dragged off the floor by the coaching staff, like stay in that game, and that's on both sides. Shea, Wemby, Chet, Fox, and never mind that too. I think another big game from Vassell. Like he's been him shooting the three, playing with confidence, taking on the defensive challenge. He's had some awesome, awesome defensive plays this series, and really, I mean, I Vassell's a key to this team. I think Dylan Harper playing excellent. 5 of 6 in game 6, 18 points off the bench. Um, that can't be understated. But I do think Vassell is just a huge key to this team, and honestly, a Spurs team that lacks a little bit of shooting. So when he's hitting threes, changes a lot for them. So that's another piece.
Yeah, I think Wemby needs to play as much as he physically can tonight. What we saw from game one from him is what I think we need to see tonight.
Hmm.
Um, game on the line, pulled up from like 35 feet, like good. Like, we need that tonight from him. I feel like we need a bigger game from Fox. I feel like obviously he was injured, um, so that's probably not helping. But I feel like, he's PG1. I feel like he should be in the game a little bit more, I think Keldon Johnson has been having a great series, a great postseason in general. Obviously, regular season typically won six man of the year. Um, but was watching, I think it was game 6, it might have been game 5, and commentary said about De'Aaron Fox, you would never think this guy was a rookie the way he's able to finish at the rim. And like it's absurd. Like he's playing like a 4 or 5 year vet in his
You talking
rookie
about Dylan
season.
Harper?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um and uh I feel like Dylan Harper, for whatever reason, I have a feeling tonight he's gonna be like the difference maker. Obviously, besides for Wemby, I feel like if Wemby gets fouled out or whatever, I feel like Dylan Harper, if it's a close game, obviously, I feel like he might hit like a dagger or a clutch shot. Um, I know De'Aaron Fox. I think he's won Clutch Player of the Year, where he's been in the running. He's a pretty clutch player, but I feel like he hasn't been playing well, and I feel like Dylan Harper and Vassell have been playing very, very well. So I feel like game on the line, series on the line, road to trip to the finals. Feel like and Wemby's not in. I feel like it's got to go to Harper or Vassell. Um, you know, obviously Stephon Castle, Keldon Johnson, uh, they can hit shots, but I feel like if we're looking for, a three or even like a mid range, and obviously a layup from Harper, um, I feel like Vassell is your best option if it comes down to a three. You can kind of run a play where you might give the ball to Fox and Castle and kind of get the defense attracted to them, and then kind of pop it out Vassell three because he's been hitting a lot of those. Um, so I feel like it really is going to come down to fouls this game. I hope they just play through it. If there's a clear foul, obviously you got to call it. Um, but if it's like, oh, like Wemby got brushed on the shoulder by Chet Holmgren's beard hair, like that should not be called. Um, I think
Just let
even
the players decide the outcome.
yeah, I think like especially when we're in the paint, Chet and Wemby, you have to let them play.
Mm-hmm.
Like those two need to go at each other. I feel like because if you don't let them play, then they're both just gonna foul out, and it's just gonna become players just chucking the ball up from three. There's not gonna be any inside scoring.
The narrative after Game 7 should have nothing to do with the officiating. It should be all about the
Yes,
players who played well and who didn't.
I think from an OKC perspective, I think you need something from Shea tonight and something from Chet without no AJ Mitchell and no J Dub. That's devastating for them.
Well, it's
I
going to be about who's the third guy that steps up for
yeah.
them, you know?
Uh, who's even on that team? Besides, I mean,
Well, I mean,
they could play
you could
small.
get a lot from Case and Wallace. You could see an Isaiah Joe sighting. You could see what Caruso gives you if he's in attack mode. Whether or not Lou Dort wants to have a game is another situation that they'll be looking at. But I think they're missing creation out of AJ Mitchell and Dort, and then I think sorry, J Dub. Um, the other Jalen Williams, I think he's been playing well. He's just not a big scorer. Occasionally he can hit a step up three. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's the other thing is like some of it is health, and the Thunder have been healthy in the past, and they're not at full health right now, and there's the Spurs can't feel bad about that. They just got to go and try to capitalize and see how it shakes out. But yeah, I mean, I think that's we're about an hour out from game start here. Game 7, just a little over an hour. So we'll watch. We'll see what happens, and
Yeah,
we'll be back for episode 4 to sort of give a preview of the finals here.
finals.
Mhm.
Uh, do you have time to quickly go over the lottery for the draft?
The draft
Just real
lottery.
and give
Uh,
thoughts on what we think of the picks and where they're placed.
Yeah, I got a few minutes. It also might just be worth a draft lottery episode
Okay.
before the draft, just to spread out content. Um, I would also have to look a little bit more in depth at picks projections and sort of how that shakes out. But definitely something we can cover next time.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. So that'll do it for episode 4, Bloodline Basketball. We'll be back next week to talk about the finals for a little finals preview and go over some draft predictions and some analysis. So, all right, sounds good. That'll do it for us, and we'll see you guys next week.